Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are back on the dev server for Update Danger Zone, and it's time to have a look at the new top tier MBT for the Chinese. This is the ZTZ99A, and it's pretty similar to the other MBTs that we have for China, the ZTZ99A and also the 99A, but it does have some additional protection and also quite a lot of junk in the trunk. So it's always nice to see. You can see here how much of a girth it has back here, which is always interesting. The ZTZ99A has access to the 125mm ZPT98. It gets exactly the same rounds as the Stage 3 with the 125I or 1251, and then the DTW125, which pens 552, 466, 319. Not the best round, not the worst at high tier. It'll do the job as long as you penetrate in the correct places. What is quite nice about the ZTZ99A though, LWSLR, which is always a good combo, especially against helicopters when it comes to top tier, since they're getting more and more powerful. Being lasered means that you can pop smoke and break the lock. Then also it does get thermals for the tank commander and also gunner. They are Gen 2 at least, which gives it quite a nice advantage over some vehicles. It does get the smoke grenades as standard as well as a modification with 10 smoke grenades overall, artillery support since it's an MBT, and also all the mobility stuff on top of it. It is unfortunately a stock heat vehicle, but 125 will not be too hard to get, and it's a pretty decent round for the higher echelons of the game, only to struggle with some of the more beefy machines. So what is the actual difference between it and the ZTZ99A? Well, there isn't a ton of them, but there is a few of them. The armor layout is slightly different on the vehicle. You can see here that it has the FY4 setups on the turret and also the upper glacis. So you have the composite armor, then you have the FY4 bricks, which are similar to Contact 5 in idea, so it gives you a bit of kinetic protection and also a bit of chemical protection, and you can see the turret is just covered in it. So you've got a ton of this FY4 stuff, and then underneath you have some of the standard things as well on the external. You got a bit of rolled homogeneous armor, and also you have a bit more underneath as well. So even though the general areas that you need covered are not covered, such as the breech, the driver's port and the lower glacis, which has a direct link to your ammo, by the way, at least it's additional protection in the areas which were around before. At the same time, it does have pretty good gunner's optics, which is one of the issues that some of the Chinese vehicles have, so that's lovely to see. And also has the top 12.7mm anti-air gun, which is beautiful. Has the coaxial 7.62mm as well, and with the full commander's controls can be super useful at moving about. Does struggle a little bit in other areas compared to other top tier machines, so 25 degrees of turret rotation is not the best. Gun depression is only 5 degrees, but it's quite low to the ground. Even if the turret is built upwards, at least the hull is still quite sank down. And the reload isn't the worst, but it definitely is not the best. And the main reason is because it still has the same autoloader from the other ones, which never seems to improve with the Chinese. So it has the horizontal autoloader, which means it has the 3-man crew, the 2 in the turret and the driver down here. So one-shotting this vehicle, just lower glacis, bang, blow it up, or shoot here and then get a good spread, or take out the breach and then go from there. The other thing is you can shoot at the top of the breach as well, and you can see, I don't know whether it's supposed to be like this, but it really has absolutely no armor in this area, so you can just kind of go through it with pretty much anything. It does have some FY4 ERA on the sides, just like the other vehicles, but generally on the whole you have no armor at all, so they're just going to go straight through you and once again just shoot your horizontal autoloader. At least it's not vertical, so it covers a slightly less amount of area, but it will go pop. It does have access to a 1200 horsepower engine, which is lovely, and this means it can canter going forwards, which is something a lot of these Chinese vehicles can do. And it's the T80s and the T72Bs at high tier can do that too, which is really fantastic. Then you once again have the problem with the Chinese vehicles, which is they don't know what a reverse gear is. So even at 11.0, this thing only reverses at 4.8 kilometers an hour. Even the Macavers worked out that this was bad. I don't know why this vehicle hasn't, and also the T72B3 has the same issue, but at least they solved it with the T80 series, giving it a decent amount of reverse for the vehicle itself. So we've got slightly additional armor, we've got basically the same gun, we've got a slightly better transmission and engine combo, and also we have some pretty good optics and thermals alongside of it, which basically make this machine they make this machine pretty good. Like, it is definitely the best vehicle for China at the moment at high tier, but also at the same time still has a few issues with it compared to some of the other top tier MBTs. So there's a reason why, you know, the ZTZs you don't really see too much compared to other vehicles, and it's mainly because of the fact that they're a little bit harder to use because of their nature and how they generally work. It does also have a HE, so you kind of overpressure people, which might be better to do at high tier when you're stock for certain vehicles. This thing does make quite a nice noise though. You can see that it's quite beefy, and what I would like to see from this machine is I would like to see the actual camera push back a little bit. Once again, the camera is a little bit pushed forward on this, which is a problem with a lot of these general vehicles that we see when it comes to the high tier stuff. You'll see it very badly with the Rhino when we cover it later on, and also with a few others as well. So the round is not going to have any issue penning weak spots. It's also going to be very good at killing breaches and all of that stuff, and at the same time with the commander's control, it has really good thermals, very good zoom on it as well, as you can see, and the same thing goes for the gunner view. So you have at least Gen 2 thermals, which will be super nice on the machine. You have the 12.7, you have the smokes on top of it as well, where they throw off in 2 loads, so you can technically make them 3 if you get shot, and you're going to be able to pen pretty much anything that you want to with a vehicle like this. It's just at the moment the major issue with this thing is Japan lacks mobility at high tier, and one of the things that makes a lot of the vehicles very powerful at high tier is either their armor in the form of like the T72s and the T80s, where they eat a lot of APF SDSs when, well, a lot of people would debate they shouldn't. And then you have mobility with them as well going forward, and a lot of vehicles from the NATO side of things have great mobility going forwards and backwards. Even the Macavers, which are insanely heavy vehicles, have a lot of mobility, where this thing still struggles in that regard, meaning that it's going to move around at a decent click, but definitely not as good as what we will see with other vehicles, which is the problem. You know, you want it to be comparable to them instead of kind of be left behind. The turn rate is also not the best. They still haven't invented dual drive, which kind of sucks. It sounds nice though, and it looks beautiful, which is always a good addition to any vehicle. I'm hoping that as we go along, when it comes to China, they get access to more and more mobile vehicles, because right now their addition of the MBTs is really good, and this is kind of like the staple of their high tier lineups, but now what you need is the mobility, and the ZTZ11 was kind of supposed to be that, but it never was able to actually manifest that. Now it's time for mobile stuff, and unfortunately that doesn't include this vehicle. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Merciless Reaper, Jerry Provolt, Mega Dino King, Professor X1718, Orange Tail, Sakoshi Tiger, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Eugen's Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, Moxie, B. Young, and Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.